Welcome to Rates and Barrels, presented by E-Trade from Morgan Stanley. It is Friday, August 1st, the post-trade deadline cleanup. We are going to dig into the winners, the losers, all the fallout, as we promised during the live stream episode on Thursday. We're going to evaluate the situations that have changed significantly as a result of all of the trades. A record-breaking number of trades on deadline day, according to our friends over at Cespedes Barbecue. You know, it felt like there were a lot of trades, so I'm glad the official clicker showed the number we were hoping for.
It got hectic on the live screen. We're just like, this is happening, and we forgot to mention this, and Charlie Morton. It was pretty intense. It was hard to kind of keep your mind wrapped around the bigger picture, and hopefully we can provide some of that today. I've been sort of thinking it through ever since it happened. I mean, so much that happens that you have to kind of step back and think about it from different directions. You know, who sold the best, you know, who bought tepidly the best, you know, who went hardest in, you know, all those sort of things. There's different answers for all those.
Yeah. And of course, around the deadline, it always seems to be that if there's injury news or other stuff happening in the game, that gets sort of pushed aside. For instance, as we get started today, Ronald Acuña Jr. had an MRI because he was shelved with Achilles soreness or Achilles inflammation initially. That MRI showed a grade 1 calf strain, which I think will lead Acuña and fans to breathe a sigh of relief. Now, I think the question would just be, if you have the situation in Atlanta, record-wise, like it is, and you have Acuña as a guy that's had 2 ACL tears, you probably exercise a little bit more caution in these final 2 months, even with a minor injury like this. So where this could ordinarily be the 10-day minimum, I feel like that's a little less of a guarantee given all of the circumstances.
There was a little window into their decision-making process in Atlanta, which we've sort of questioned over the years in terms of how much they play their players and what that has done to some of their injury outcomes. They said that, you know, Acuña said, well, I felt tightness the night before, but I'd missed so much time, I wanted to get out there. And I don't know how this will go over. I don't know if everybody agrees with me. I think you tell him, no, sorry, you're down. I think you tell the player.
If he reported the tightness and they said, we're going to play you anyway, that's not
But that's
great.
not what they did. But there's still a subtle thing where, like, they should have
an expectation of playing every day.
Or no, they should have told him no.
Mm.
Oh, you have tightness? Sorry, dude. Like, you're coming back. Like, no, you're down today. Like, how many times you have heard of a manager being like, oh, he really wanted to play today, but we didn't let him.
Right.
You've heard them say that before. So it's like, I think that they should have told Acuña no. So that's just a slight, you know, maybe an insight into how they've racked up so many days. Maybe Olsen said, this is tight, but I'd rather play. And they're like, fine. And instead of being like, hey, let's just take a day off.
I mean, that could be the mentality within
because players want to
staff.
play. So I think
Sure.
sometimes the role of the organization is to tell them no.
Yeah, well, I think that's fair. Jared Kelenic was recalled in the corresponding move. Remember Jared Kelenic? He's got a 65 WRC plus at AAA this year. He's 26 years old now. It's the 4th season in which Jared Kelenic has played games at the AAA level.
They got Marco Gonzalez and Evan White along with Kelenic. So it was basically a salary dump, but they did get Jackson Kowar back. I think it was mostly a salary dump for the Mariners. They used Kelenic to dump White and Marco Gonzalez, and hasn't worked out amazingly for the Braves.
Yeah. It's just...
yeah.
I think Jared Kelenic will forever go down as one of my reminders to be willing to trade prospects in real life, in fantasy. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. even if there are good tools, even if there are signs of things being good. And maybe Kelenic ends up being a guy that figures it out in his late 20s. Anything's possible. He doesn't make terrible swing decisions, at least in terms of just chasing. Hits the ball reasonably hard most years. This year he's down to 37.8%, but a 13.5% barrel rate in the small sample. Like, it does a lot of things that we generally think lead to a player being a good, productive player. And
he's only 26.
Only 26. Yeah, he is 26, or he's only 26. That's a glass half full, glass half empty sort of thing. I don't know what his future holds. I don't know if he's going to get more than part-time looks in Atlanta. Maybe a winter trade, kind of a nondescript deal, ends up sending Kelenic elsewhere to a team with lower ambitions in 2026, and maybe that's the way he gets back into the big leagues with a prolonged opportunity to show that, yeah, actually I am an everyday big leaguer or a big side platoon big leaguer, because that should still be in the range of outcomes. The career numbers, the big league level, it's an 85 WRC plus thanks to a 30.6% K rate, 211, 282, 376, right? I mean, that's not at all what we were hoping from Kelenic, especially the first time he was traded. When he was included in the big blockbuster between the Mets and the Mariners, our expectation there was that the Mariners got a cornerstone for their roster, and obviously that has not been the case.
Yeah, the heat maps just tell you that. I think that he's got a hole. He's got a hole. He's blown away on sliders. It's just something that people have been really exploiting.
That seems more correctable than the problem that we described for like Tyler Locklear, where velocity up in the zone, 95 mile an hour fastballs are the problem for Locklear. Like not swinging at the low and away slider seems easier to fix than not having enough bat speed to catch up to 95.
I watched a lot of late career Andrew Jones, so I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you. That was like a lot of whipping at sliders blown away. Yeah,
I'm sure it's easy for me to sit here in my hat and fake brick wall and be like, hey, yeah, just lay off those down and away sliders, Jared. Everything will fall into place for you. We'll see. We'll see if anything happens for him in the final 2 months. It's just kind of funny that a guy like that comes up now and it's just like shrug, when as 3-4 years ago, everything he did we had under a microscope.
There was a point at which the Mets had like so obviously lost the Edwin Diaz trade.
Turns out, no. The other news out of Milwaukee, Jackson Chourio headed to the IL out of an abundance of caution, according to Matt Arnold, general manager. So I think maybe this will be closer to the minimum stint on the IL, and that report comes from Adam McKelvey at MLB.com. It sounds like Brandon Lockridge, who they acquired at the deadline from the Padres in the Nestor Cortez trade, will join the Brewers in D.C. this weekend and work in some kind of tandem with Blake Perkins in the absence of Chourio.
Yeah, I wonder what the decision is there. What's funny is that Chourio has similar tilt and a similar attack direction to Ke'Bryan Hayes. It's just weird. The what he doesn't do though, he lets the ball travel, and he also has more bat speed than Ke'Bryan Hayes. So
see, like, wait, tell me how they're different.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's like 3 miles an hour difference. So yeah. Okay. I'm glad. I've been
glad there was
just trying to
different.
figure out, like what my theory is of bat path, and bat path grades, and one thing that's annoyed me about the sort of Jack Caglione Nick Kurtz thing is that Jack Caglione has a little bit more of the Jackson Chourio package. Decent contact, really good bat speed, flatter bat swing path. And I don't know. I don't want to just go all in on the guys who have full tilt, because that can be a high strikeout approach. So
yeah, the Riley Greens.
Yeah, I don't know, and I haven't figured it all out yet. But I do know that when I do see the flat bat paths, I get a little bit nervous.
I think it depends on what my expectation for the player is. If I'm looking for someone to spray line drives, be more of an average type hitter, Alejandro Kirk. If I'm looking for that type of player, if the approach and expectations are in line with that swing, then it works. And then I think as far as like the high tilt guys go, I assume part of the reason you get a little more swing and miss is just literally the angle in which the bat comes through the zone. There's just a little more margin for error and or a little less margin for error. And that's generally going to make it harder to keep a low strikeout rate with that approach, but it's going to unlock really intriguing power.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe the way to do it is to make sure you have diversity in your fantasy lineup, in your major league lineup. I think that there are teams that care about that on the major league lineup. I think back to Edman to the Dodgers, and I think Edman has the flattest swing on the Dodgers. And do you remember there were just times in the postseason last year where other guys weren't hitting on the Dodgers, but Edman just kept getting hits?
Well, I think it comes back to how you problem solve. Like thinking about the conversation I had with Trevor while you were in Germany, it's like the types of things that work against someone with a flat swing.
Yeah.
The same types of pitches, the same locations don't work as effectively against the high tilt players.
Yeah.
So it's probably a harder adjustment on pitchers, depending on how many pitches they have and what they have in the bag, to navigate a lineup with a lot of different swing paths in it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, we're still scratching the surface though of what we can do with all of the swing data that's available now, since it's still very, very new. One other baseball news item you should know: Jonathan Aranda hits the IL with a wrist injury. Unfortunately, his glove hand found the path of Giancarlo Stanton, which is not a good place to put your glove hand. Just kind of a reflex on a bad
really
throw.
Hurt. It's how Rizzo really got hurt like that. Like, it's one of the worst ways to get hurt, I think. It's just, you could bend that wrist back. They don't really have details on what it was.
It just says out several weeks with a wrist injury. So I don't know if they're waiting to get the imaging back. That was a report from Ryan Bass from FanDuel Sports Network Sun.
The whole season.
Yeah, might be back in September is kind of what they're suggesting right now. So we'll know more probably by the end of the weekend, hopefully. Question for you is, where do you think Jonathan Aranda ranks among all hitters in the Fangraphs Player Rater here in 2025?
Like I want these questions are funny because it's high because otherwise you wouldn't ask, right? And it's probably higher than you expect. So while you're trying to figure it out, you're like, what's a reasonable number to say? And let me just go higher than that. So I'm gonna go with 15.
Now we're in year 7 of doing this pod together. And I know you think about all those things, so I could have considered that when I put this question together.
And he's 35.
So would you like to change your number?
No, we'll leave it.
Okay. Just gave you the chance. 54th among hitters, $15. And even the chance for you to change your number, I could have used that to misdirect you if you were like all over it. So you never know. I could be
you got me.
Triple deking. Triple deking. Great line. I mean, 316, 394, 478.
54 is good.
Here's the thing about Jonathan Aranda that has surprised me. I thought there'd be a little more in terms of home run power. He's a little bit more slash line wise like a Yandy Diaz from the left side, as opposed to the 25 homers that you're looking for from your first base eligible players. So I really wonder what the market, if we don't see him, or even if we do for some part of September, if we don't see him again this year, and this ends up being the full season from Aranda, if he goes into next year with a similar playing time outlook, like a near everyday kind of player, is he a top 100 overall pick, or does he come out a little bit lower because of what people want from that position?
Yeah, the thing that he did this year was lost second base eligibility. So he will be a first base only, and I think his projection will be for maybe a 260, 270 average with like 22 homers and no steals. That's not a top 10 first baseman.
The only thing that makes me think there's still one more level there is we did see the lowest ground ball rate from him at any point during his time in the big leagues, and it came in the largest sample, right? He's run ground ball rates above 50% each of the last 3 seasons when he's been in Tampa. This year, 37.8%. Still hitting the ball hard, still lifting it enough, making reasonably good swing decisions, again, at least by O-swing. He's got a 409 BABIP, though, dude. Like, that's kind of weird. Like, so it's just a lot of questions still with Jonathan Aranda, even though you could easily look at what he's done this year and say it's a success. I think he's going to be a polarizing player going into drafts next year. And for the team that kind of had the most bizarro middle of the road as far as not committing to buying and not committing to selling, but just trying to get better, like they always do, their deadline was so weird. Who actually plays in this share of playing time? Who is the net winner from Aranda's absence here in the next month plus?
Well, yeah, because Caballero left town too.
Yep.
So, I think it might be Taylor Walls, strangely enough. And maybe there's something in the outfield where Christopher Morel plays DH and Yandy Diaz plays first base more often. And so somebody in the outfield gets more of a shot. Johnny DeLuca. So maybe Johnny DeLuca and Taylor Walls are modest winners at the deadline.
Chandler Simpson left that game early against the Yankees on Thursday as well. So that could be the other thing that bumps up the DeLuca playing time. Ha-Seong Kim is back on the IL.
At the worst time, for in terms of buying and selling. They could figure things out again and be a good team again. But the injuries were bad. The losses were bad. Getting Griffin Jackson was pretty interesting. Do you think he just slides right into being the closer? I mean, Fairbanks has big stuff, and Jax wasn't closing before. I've seen a lot of people just anoint him closer, and I'm not sure. I think maybe Fairbanks stays closer.
I think Fairbanks is still the guy, and they tend to manage Fairbanks in a way where there'd still be some save chances there anyway. And then I think the door is still open. Fairbanks was the, I guess we'll say, second or third tier closer that I was really worried about coming into the year because everything turned for the worse last season. Injuries were a factor in that, but didn't have the elite strikeout rates that we're accustomed to. ERA got up into the mid 3s. It just kind of seemed like maybe this would be the turning point. And now with Jack's there, it could just take a little time. I don't think it happens immediately. Fairbanks this season looks a lot like last year. Lower K rate, ratios are a tick better than they were a year ago. 18 saves and 22 opportunities. Like it's fine, but it's definitely not the workhorse closer that some teams have. So I think there's still some chances for Jax.
And also the 35% strikeout rate seems to be gone. So that's a little bit weird. Even though the stuff is there, the strikeout rate's gone. The one other thing with Fairbanks is I think I just counted 6 back-to-backs on the full season.
Yeah,
so,
there you go.
You can use Jax in pick 6 if Fairbanks is pitched the day before.
50-cent Griffin Jax? Yeah, I think it's a great call. That's the price. Speaking of bullpens, you threw something out there on the live stream yesterday. I spun around in circles and thought about it and probably didn't give much of an answer. But you asked who I thought the best bullpen was out of the Mets, Yankees, and Padres after their respective upgrades at the trade deadline. And I think after you made a case for San Diego, the depth they had was what put it over the top. But you went ahead and ran some numbers. I'm curious to know what you found.
If you're looking on YouTube, I put the top 6 together, just sort of the A bullpens. I don't know that it's really worth going all the way down to 8 and 9 to suss this one out. And so I've got the top 6 in there. For the Mets, it's Diaz, Rogers, Helsley, Garrett, Stanek, and Soto. Yankees got Devin Williams, Weaver, Jake Bird, Doval, Loizaga, Hill. And the Padres have Mason Miller, Estrada, Morajón, Suarez, Adam, and Wandy Peralta. Add it all up, and the Padres 111 stuff plus, the Yankees 111 stuff plus, Mets 117 stuff plus. Mets also had the lowest ERA so far this season, and the second best K minus BB. The Padres had the best K minus BB and the best command of the group, the best location plus. I think you can still, even though pitching plus adds it all up and gives the Mets a nudge, I think the surprising thing for me might be that it goes Padres, Mets, Yankees, and that the Mets make enough push in this analysis to push the Padres, maybe push them better. Some people will pick them. I mean, they're pitching. The Mets pitching plus is better than the Padres pitching plus. The Mets stuff plus is better than the Padres stuff plus. So there's definitely some ways that they have a better ground ball rate as a group. Their funk, Tyler Rogers, is probably better than the Padres funk, who's maybe Wandy Peralta. So there's some ways that you could make the argument for the Mets. I'm still going Padres, Mets, Yankees, but I think there's a little bit of argument between the top two.
So even before the upgrades, last year, I think the thing that we looked at with the Mets bullpen was, hey, it's really good in terms of missing bats, but it's actually one that's prone to issuing free passes. And I think it's interesting, of those three bullpens, the location grade is the lowest on the Mets. And I wonder if that even matters at all, but it's something that gives me that little bit of a flutter, a little bit of a nervous, like, oh, are we going to create some messes that we can't clean up at the worst possible time? That would be something I look at with that Mets bullpen right now.
We've seen the Orioles and the Phillies kind of take that approach where they're like, we don't care about, reliever locations and command. But the Orioles and the Phillies have had to rebuild their bullpens a couple times. So, maybe there's something to this. We have found in the past, Jeff Zimmerman did find, and Billy Beane said publicly that he thought that strike throwers stayed healthier. There was a slight correlation between strike throwing and health, probably built on, repeatable mechanics. That's
right. More control, like not control in the sense of limiting walks, but almost body like control. More control of your body and like decelerating more safe. Like I don't even know if that's a thing that you would specifically, like, you do train to decelerate safely. I almost don't know if you think about it though that much. It's just like being able to do it.
Yeah, because you really want to throw your whole body into the pitch to throw as hard as you can, right? And so you'll see guys that sort of whip all the way around their leg, that sort of just whips all the way around. And you'll see guys who recoil, that kind of snap the whip, But I do think there's probably healthier ways to do that and less healthy ways to do that. I remember we used to always talk about the guys who like came all the way through and then like came back. Like there was so much that we would like that we didn't like that. Some of these things, like, we obsess about them and then later we're like, oh, maybe that wasn't as big a deal. The inverted W is sort of making a comeback.
Okay.
It really is.
It's good now, or it's not bad now?
Bad. It's bad again.
It's bad again.
Yeah. We thought maybe it didn't matter. And now
it was bad, didn't matter, and now it's bad again.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. I'll work on my inverted W. Make sure I get that out of my delivery. Let's keep it in the bullpen for a minute. We talked about a lot of these toss-ups as we were going along, but in the San Francisco bullpen, you have Doval out of the picture. There are some people I saw in the comments on your winners and losers article saying they think it's Ryan Walker again. You've been a advocate for Randy Rodriguez all season long. Is Rodriguez, if you're looking at the relievers we're about to talk about, which includes like Pittsburgh situation with Dennis Santana, two guys in St. Louis with Riley O'Brien and Jojo Romero, and Jack Perkins or whoever we're going to see in Sacramento, Cole Sands, Jose Ferrer in Washington, is Randy Rodriguez kind of a tier above this entire cluster under the assumption that he will get that chance as opposed to them going back to Walker?
I said he's a top 10 closer.
Yeah. Okay. So you definitely have him a notch ahead, because just about everybody else in this group, for me, would be like a third tier outside the top 20 closer with some interesting skills, and maybe over the final 2 months could leap up and become tier 2 guys going into 2026.
Randy's more like, every year there's like one guy where you're like, oh, he has the stuff, he has the opportunity, he just took it over, he's just going to be the closer for a while, right? You know what I mean? Like that's how I feel about Randy Rodriguez. And for people saying it's Ryan Walker, I realize that he's been better recently, but if there is any magic sauce to who's the next closer, it is almost always the guy who is getting holds. And in the last 30 days, 2 holds to Tyler Rogers, 2 holds to Randy Rodriguez, 1 hold to Spencer Bivens, but that's like the 3-inning type. He's like a multi-inning guy. And 0 holds to Ryan Walker. I just don't think that he has the necessary trust from his manager, especially 4 walks and 10 innings. Randy Rodriguez has gotten saves, So I think he's pretty obviously the guy.
I think Walker's a useful bullpen piece, but you're talking about a guy that this year has a 23.6% K rate. That's not a closer strikeout rate. It's not like the swinging strikes are still there like they were last year. He's down to 8.5%. Last year he was at 12.4%. 2023 he was 13%. He just doesn't look like the same guy, and he's 4 years older than Rodriguez too.
I'd be really careful with with closers with sinkers, right-handed closers with sinkers. I think that's just what's happened. It's harder for him to get out lefties, and the secret sauce that all the research says that all the 3 things that I've been able to find. Who was the setup guy? Who has the most velo and who has the most stuff? Bang. So Randy's a yes on all 3.
I think that's what brought us to Cole Sands in the moment, looking at the Minnesota bullpen after they traded away almost everybody. Cole Sands is a 3 fastballs guy who has below average stuff and then has 1 well above average pitch, but he throws it 15% of the time. So that's not what you normally look at as far as a profile for a 9th inning guy. And it's an 18.8% K rate. I was just looking at Walker a minute ago. So I don't think it's Cole Sands, but I haven't landed on an obvious, this is definitely the guy instead yet in Minnesota. Have you found someone else that you think makes a lot more sense?
No, I have.
No. Okay.
No. There's I don't know much about Noah Davis, who's a 28-year-old with a 25.6% strikeout rate. And he's backing up, but he's a 28-year-old with a 94.7 mile an hour fastball. It's who it is? It's somebody else. Might be Taj Bradley.
Okay. Yeah, we had a mailbag question. I think it was Farnsworth that sent that to us on Discord. We've talked about Taj Bradley having epic poor command for a starter a couple of times in this show. The easiest toggle to get a lot of value from Taj Bradley is to make him a high leverage reliever. And given how many guys they traded away, I think you could make that switch really fast and just say, hey, we love you as a reliever. Let's just try it in the back end and see how it goes. And if you don't like what you see, maybe you stretch him back out as a starter going into next season. Maybe that works. But man, if you're stashing Taj Bradley in a league right now, I actually think that's a faster path to a lot of fantasy value than waiting for him to go through a longer period of adjustments to find another pitch that will enable him to be more effective as a starter.
Yeah, I mean, active on the roster right now are starters are Simeons with Richardson, Joe Ryan. I guess Taj Bradley is a starter for now. Zebby Matthews, that's 4. The 5th starter is, I don't know, dude. So Bradley's starting for, I think Mick Abel's the 5th starter. So Mick Abel's the 5th starter. But beyond that, starting pitchers on the 40-man, beyond those 5, if you include Abel, are Festa, Lopez, Ober, and Pearson Ole. I think that they might look to convert Pearson Ole to relief. And if it's not Pearson Ole, then maybe Taj Bradley. I think they'll give Taj Bradley a look right now in the rotation for almost out of just complete need.
Right. So for the next couple of weeks until they get guys back from the IL. But if it doesn't go well, then it's relief time.
Somebody in their pipeline is going to turn into a starter. I mean, into a reliever. They're going to turn. That's what they did with Louis Varland, right?
Yeah.
They gave him a couple shots and then he was their reliever.
Yeah, we got to see. We got to dig up a new name. It's going to happen. But that's probably right. And there's going to be a slew of moves they have to make because of all the players they traded. So maybe we'll have somebody new in that bullpen that gets a high leverage spot or two this weekend. And by Monday, we're like, oh, there it is. It's that guy. Because it doesn't seem obvious looking at the holdovers that are on the roster right now.
That's true.
Baltimore, I saw the O's crowd saying Yennier Cano is not going to be the guy. It's been a brutal year for him. Got a little reset at AAA at one point. Is there anybody they acquired or anybody that's quietly moved up in that organization that has caught your eye in the last 24 hours?
I mean, Keegan Aiken's always been pretty good, but he's hurt, I believe. He just got activated, so I guess it could be Keegan Aiken. In the last 30 days, in terms of holds, in terms of who got the chances, it was Andrew Kittredge gone, Sir Anthony Dominguez gone, Gregory Soto gone, Brian Baker gone. So Corbin Martin is, the new guy, but he does have a save, so it could be him. It's pretty boring stuff, though. 95.8. Maybe as a reliever, he's still kind of leaning into his new velo, and maybe he'll just gain velo and be more exciting. So, yeah, totally could be Corbin Martin. There's an interesting thing that happens, I think, between trying to cover the game nationally like we do, and following a team locally, which is that I'm going to obviously admit there are information gaps. For us, we don't watch the team every night, but there's also a passion gap. And I think the passion gap actually benefits us to some extent because we don't care that Cano blew a game last week.
No, doesn't.
And their manager may not, their manager may care, but their manager may not either, So, from, the 30,000 foot view, I still think it's Cano who has 3 holds despite not pitching that well, and has been used in that role. But I have to acknowledge, it could be Corbin Martin.
Yeah, Corbin Martin would be interesting in that role. I think Roster Resource put him atop the depth chart. Yaramil Geraldo just got brought up from AAA. That was a name that I think I saw someone throw out there as a candidate. I mean, it's a little bit like the Minnesota situation. You can say it's wide open right now. And before you make your bid tree on Sunday, you're going to see if the Orioles can generate a save chance or two, because it might actually be the missing information that we need to actually throw a dart with any sort of reasoning behind anybody.
One thing I would suggest, though, is that rookie closers are exceedingly rare. And I went back and looked through it, and a lot of the guys that we liked as a setup guy before they became closer. And I did not find many rookie closers going back, like true rookie closers. This came up in the Craig Yoho conversation, where I was like, Craig Yoho may have great stuff. He may be a closer next year or the year after. But even Abner Uribe, great stuff. What does he do? He comes up, he sets up, he gets a save or two. Maybe he'll be the closer next after Mayo leaves. You know what I mean? It's like, that's sort of how people use it. So even if, I've forgotten his name already. Even if he's good. Yeah. Even if he's good, I figure he's setting up for one of the other guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's a gnarly bunch. Cano's the guy we've seen and heard the most over the years. Aiken's been kind of in that longer role at times.
He's also a lefty, so sometimes they don't prefer the lefties.
Yeah, they do have a second lefty with Grant Wolfram there, so maybe that leaves the door open for someone like Aiken. But Corbin Martin's at least a former prospect that got a lot of chances as a starter, bounced around the league, has been stuck at AAA, so there could be something there. He's out of options, so he's just at that point in his career where teams are going to view him as a reliever. I think he's got an 82 location plus right now, so that would be the one major obstacle maybe working against him.
Only 100 stuff plus. That's
yeah. It doesn't have over-the-top filthy stuff that offsets that level of command. But keep an eye on this Baltimore situation, in part because the lineup is not that bad. This is going to be at least a plucky team that generates save chances. Like, there will actually be some value if one guy can emerge to get the bulk of the save chances for this club in the final 2 months.
Yeah, true. They've been scoring a lot of runs.
Does Jose Ferrer do anything for you? We didn't really talk about opportunities with Kyle Finnegan getting flipped to that Tigers bullpen during the show on Thursday, but Ferrer has been a favorite of our Discord throughout the season.
Power lefty. I think it's him. In terms of holds in the last 30 days, it's Jose Ferrer 4, Luis Garcia 3 gone, Brad Lord 1 in the rotation, I think.
Yeah, he's been starting.
Yeah, so it seems pretty closely. Pretty obviously, Jose Ferrer, he has pretty good stuff. It is, one where the slider is rated higher than the sinker. It is a sinker forward. One that I just said that Ryan Walker. I don't know if I believe in Jose Ferrer long term, like he's just going to take this and run with it, but I do think he's the best of what they've got now. And it is a 98-mile-an-hour sinker, so that's even, I think, better velo than Ryan Walker. So sometimes velo can be your way out of platoon splits as well.
Ground ball machine, low K rate for a guy that throws that hard and actually gets an okay swinging strike rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think for the final 2 months, 8 saves, 10 saves could be within reach for Jose Ferrer.
Should have put it in my article for sure. Another, there's another missed name that I'll bring up in the article from the article later.
All right. How about Jack Perkins, a favorite of mine on the show this year? Do you see him moving into Mason Miller's old job, or do you see him maybe moving into JP Sears' old job?
I kind of like him for the starting role. And the reason I say that is, A, his manager said they'd like to get him starts over the course of the season. B, the saves that Jack Perkins has are multi-inning variety. So he has been remaining stretched out. C, Jack Perkins has a large arsenal of 4 pitches and interesting, unique stuff and velo. I am intrigued to see him as a starter. And D, I think for an Athletics team that just wants to play out the string, Justin Sterner or Sean Newcomb could do just fine. Newcomb's a lefty, and managers prefer righty closers a little bit more than you'd expect, just given the population of righties and lefties. That's a piece of research I've done in the past. In terms of stuff, it's Sterner over. Well, it's actually Newcomb over Sterner, but it's a sinker is the best fastball for Newcomb. So I actually think it's Sterner, even though the sort of top line stats for Sterner are kind of boring. Bad K rate, bad ERA. I don't feel very strongly about this one, and it may be just a miss. But I'm going to go with Sterner as the closer and Perkins as a starter. Luis Morales is also up, who is a big stuff, low command guy. Perkins has maybe a command problem as well. That complicates matters, but it's going to be a little bit fluid there, I think.
Yeah, Morales got a shout from Ryan Bloomfield a few weeks ago on the show. He jumped in with me on a Friday, and we were talking about Morales and Perkins as 2 guys that would have more value after the deadline. Now the deadline's here, and it's passed, and I'm like, I still don't know exactly how they're going to be used, but I do think Perkins makes a little more sense as a starter in the short term. I saw the tagline, the too long didn't read on Luis Morales' Fangraphs page ends with, but to say he's undercooked as a pitching craftsman would be an understatement. And that to me strikes me as more of like a guy that ends up in the pen to start his big league career, gets a winter, and then maybe comes in and competes for a starting job. We'll see what they actually want to do. But 2 very interesting guys from a skills perspective, at the very least, if we're looking at the A's bullpen right now. And I saw Michael Kelly get picked up in one of my leagues. He's got a 14% K rate this year, 18.2% for his career with good ratios. Great ratios. Just an extremely low K rate, and doesn't even have like a great walk rate. 9.8% is just sort of okay, acceptable okay.
5.1 Sierra,
Yeah, 5.1 Sierra this year. Hasn't had really any like home run problems in the times he's been in the big leagues. He's been in the big leagues for 4 different seasons, and that's come with 3 different organizations. So that just kind of gives you an idea of like what the game thinks of Michael Kelly or how it values him to this point. So I don't think he'd be more than an occasional save sort of guy, just based on who he is, but the results have actually been pretty good.
Yeah, it's a little bit tough there because the model likes one guy, the ratio's like another. It's like not really obvious where they're going to go. Maybe a miss. I think Perkins is a pickup in deep leagues because there's 2 roles that he can take, and he's interesting in both. So you're just hoping he doesn't stick along in this 3-inning role that's not useful for anybody.
Pirates without Bednar should be Dennis Santana again, but there are other names there. We've talked about Braxton Ashcraft among them, so even Santana's hold on that job could be a little bit slippery. We waited for the deadline to pass. We weren't sure if Jojo Romero was still going to be there after the deadline, but he is. So Jojo Romero versus Riley O'Brien is probably your battle that you're watching play out as far as usage goes over the course of the weekend for the Cardinals.
I think they could share them.
Yeah. No.
Because it's a righty and a lefty. Yes. They traded away Steven Matz. I think they have another lefty. Isn't John King a lefty? Let me see here. Yeah, John King is a lefty, but he's hurt. I don't know. So, the reason I think that some teams don't like to use their lefty is because they want to have the lefty for situational reasons. Kyle Lee, he's a switch hitter. I love that the hitter stuff is still up on for pitchers.
Switch hitting pitchers, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. But in terms of the model would prefer Riley O'Brien to Jojo Romero, and the results would prefer Jojo Romero. In terms of usage, they both have holds, but Jojo Romero has been pretty clearly the setup guy. So I have to admit that I think it's Jojo Romero, but Riley O'Brien's a bit of a dark horse. Maybe he takes it over the course of the season, or maybe they split some.
Doesn't miss a ton of bats, but Matt Swanson. It's Swanson with a V, not Swanson with a W if you're looking for him. 108 stuff plus, 102 location plus, 106 pitching plus, good slider, nice sinker, and actually throws a cutter as well, which I think would be one possible escape route from the sinker slider righty that you don't always want to put in that high leverage spot.
Yeah. Riley's is a sinker, but at least he pairs it, with really good velo and good strikeout rates. 26% strikeout rate for Riley O'Brien, and for what it's worth, his results are pretty good too. 1.67 ERA, good K-BB, 3.52 Sierra. So I still like Riley O'Brien. And Jojo Romero has one more year, though, so maybe they're just like, hey, you're the closer until you're gone. That's certainly a possibility as well.
Bats-wise, who are the big winners for hitters as a result of all the activity we saw on Thursday?
I think Coby Mayo is pretty clearly a winner here. People want Samuel Basallo to come up, and it's possible that he comes up just because there are multiple openings on this Baltimore team. But being a catcher, do you bring up Samuel Basallo to like DH and catch a couple times? Do you keep Alex Jackson on the roster? Like, it's always a little bit like harder to kind of do this with a catcher. With Coby Mayo, he's already on the roster, and what you're just saying is instead of sitting some days, you're basically playing every day. And I think it wouldn't be surprising even to see him play some third base or just be like, you're the everyday player at first base. Let's see you do it. The underlying stats for Mayo are actually pretty good. The strikeout rate is better than I expected. So I think he can be like a 250, 30 home run hitter at first base. And I think he's going to get the rest of the way. The other name on this roster, because they did trade away 2 outfielders, I think Fangraphs says Heston Kjerstad, being at the top here, but Kjerstad is not playing well in the minor leagues. Like, he has a 27 WRC plus right now in AAA. I don't think that you just do that. You're just like, fine, you're back up in the major leagues. I think you maybe give a chance to somebody like Dylan Beavers, 23-year-old, with good walk rate, good strikeout rate. The max EV's all right. The hard hit's all right. I think it's kind of like maybe an 18 to 20, maybe a 20 homer hitter guy with lots of speed. He's played some center. I think he can back up Cowser in center. I don't think he's a starting center fielder. I think you want to see what Dylan Beavers can do. I don't think you reward Heston Kjerstad for like a 27 WRC plus and pull him up. So my guess is it's mostly Beavers, Cowser, and O'Neill in the outfield, maybe with a little bit of Dylan Carlson. It's Mayo at first. DH is just sort of a rotating thing.
Yeah.
Unless they've called up Samuel Basallo.
Beavers has done a nice job. The K rate's low at AAA, 83 games this year, 17.1% K rate. Hits the ball pretty hard, 37.6% hard hit. Power speed, efficient as a base stealer, running a 414 OBP. So deeper leagues, especially where there's a keeper component, if he's still out there, I think you could kind of get ahead of the curve and add him. Dylan Carlson's getting the start in center field on Friday. I mean, the top 6, top 7 of that lineup, it's Holiday, Westberg, Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Tyler O'Neill, Cowser, Mayo for the first 7, and then Carlson, and I think that's Jeremiah Jackson DHing today. Yeah, he just got called up from AAA on Thursday, so he's going to DH today. But there will be a little bit of fluidity with a couple of those bottom spots, and I think that Dylan Beavers call might be a good one.
Jeremiah Jackson, also kind of interesting, similar package of skills, a better hard hit rate in AAA for Jeremiah Jackson. And a better strikeout rate. There's something here for him. He's 25-year-old, listed as a shortstop, but has played everywhere. It's hard to read what is happening here.
50 games in the minors this year at short, 13 at third, 12 at second. So yeah, he can move around a little bit. He's got a couple games in the outfield too, actually.
Yeah, this one I just didn't see him. I think in Florida, Heriberto Hernandez, is a winner just in that he gets to play every day. He's one of your more prototypical power patience guys that's going to have a poor batting average, but maybe a decent OBP. But the miss that I didn't have in the article was Jacob Marcy is up. And so Jacob Marcy is going to play some too with Jesus Sanchez gone. And Jacob Marcy is a left-hander with a decent strikeout rate. I would say that the batted ball numbers leave me cold. I saw that Jeff Zimmerman said he was an immediate pickup. I think that's probably because he has 47 steals in AAA or in the minors this year. In AAA in the minors this year, he had 51 last year. So there's a lot of speed there. I just don't know if the oomph is there in this bat. And does the Marlins seem to care about this? They like people who hit the ball hard, and I don't know how much of a role Marcy is going to carve out for himself. I mean, if you're anointing him something, you're anointing him the center fielder over Dane Myers.
Yeah, I guess you have to look at Marcy and say if he's a left-handed bat. Dane Myers is a righty, so you could platoon him with Myers. You could platoon him with Hernandez, who was playing some already. They don't really have DH blocked, though, either. So depending on how much they want to play Augustin Ramirez and Liam Hicks at the same time, one guy catches, one guy DHs. They have a little bit of flexibility there. They brought up Troy Johnston, a guy that I had on a bunch of draft and hold teams last year. He's already 28. A guy that plays some first base but can also run. He was 30 for 35 as a base stealer at Jacksonville. Is Jacksonville a problem on the base paths with Johnston and Marcy just running like crazy? I mean, I wonder who else they have that's running down there right now.
Johnson doesn't have the batted ball velos of a slugging first baseman, though.
No. And I think what hooked me the first time was like AA and AAA when he was old for the level. The numbers were just really good, and they didn't really have a long-term solution, but they've waited so long to bring him up. I think that probably tells us a lot about the expectations. I think Hernandez is the most interesting of that cluster of players trying to break through because he was already playing when Jesus Sanchez was on the roster, and now that Sanchez is gone, you probably have a path to just play him every day if you want it, and I think his batted ball data is a lot more convincing.
Yeah, exactly. First base, Davison De Los Santos, still kicking around. He's still 22. He is on the IL for a quad strain that says.
Yeah, okay. Was he stealing bases at AAA?
Months ago, like what?
Was he also running at AAA? He was 8 for 10 as a base stealer. Are the Marlins going to be a team that next year all of a sudden are like third or fourth in the league in steals? Like there's going to have a bunch of guys that they had working on base stealing at AAA that unexpectedly run all over you.
Think of the people that they've hired and who's there. They are going to do weird stuff. Like they have Gabe Kapler. They're going to push the needle wherever they can on any little thing. And so yeah, I could see them all stealing a ton of bases next year.
Whole clubhouse at AAA is just housing steaks with Gabe Kapler, and it's just watching tape on how to be a better base
salmon.
All this pre-game salmon, post-game steak. That's how it's going down there. Other bats that are kind of interesting. Brooks Lee's playing time way more stable now, of course. Carlos Correa gone. We talked about that during the stream. Edouard Julien was the guy that we did not talk about for the Twins. It's coming back up among the many players that'll be joining that roster.
I think before Keishel. Keishel, they expected maybe would have a longer rehab stint. So this might be in the short term. Julien plays second. Cody Clemens plays first. Brooks Lee plays short, and they pretty much play every day. In the long term, Keishel is going to push one of those guys, I don't know, to DH or to part-time play. Julien had been platooned in the past and has had trouble sort of breaking free of the poor strikeout rate that he's got and hitting for enough power and doing enough to kind of make us look the other way. So he's interesting in deep leagues, and he does some fun things. Like he won that AFL. Didn't he win that, or did he get the second or something in the home run derby? Like he has some power, and he even cut the strikeout rate this year, and still has a 198 average. So there's something he needs to work on. And I'd like Keishel more long term. So I think long term, what you're talking about is Royce Lewis, Brooks Lee, Luke Keishel, and the winner of the Julien Clemens Miranda situation at first base.
Yeah, and Clemens, I mean, also a lefty like Julien, so they don't fit together in a platoon, but then it depends on what they want to do at the DH spot. The health of Byron Buxton at any given time is a factor there. How much they want to play Larnach and Wallner in the corners, especially now that they've added James Outman as part of that trade. Like there was a lot of moving parts in the Twins.
Larnach to first.
Can he play first? Like I have no idea if he can actually play it.
I've never seen him try, but I mean, just in terms of body and what he's doing in the outfield, I want to see him play first. And there's a world where this lineup looks fairly decent next year, and they start the year with Larnach at first, and they've developed some depth in Clemens and Julien maybe as depth pieces that play around the infield, and it's Roden, Buxton, and Wallner in the outfield, and rotating DH. I mean, is that a terrible lineup? It doesn't look like a rebuilding squad's lineup. It looks like a team that's putting together, especially with, you remember that Emmanuel Rodriguez is coming.
And Walker Jenkins, too, not far away. That's where I just wonder with the major league ready outfielders they got, like what the actual plan is for getting all those pieces to fit. Like, are we going to see Alan Roden actually going to look, or is Alan Roden a fourth outfielder? Or are they going to trade one of Wallner or Larnach to make room for one of the guys that just showed up? Like it feels like it's still a work in progress that we'll get a lot more answers between now and spring training 2026.
Yeah, Outman seems to be a pickup that is mostly about the fact that he can play center field.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a guy who can play center field when Buxton is sitting or hurt. So I think that's going to be Outman's role, is mostly, Michael Taylor-ish from the left.
If you're looking for one of those corner guys that's played the infield before, there was one game for Alan Roden in 2023 in which he appeared at first base. There are 0 in the entire professional career of Trevor Larnach. So, slightest of edges to Alan Roden being the first one to possibly put on a first baseman's mitt.
Roden, we've been talking about a lot, so we don't need to talk about him too much more. But his batted ball velos are kind of intriguing. I mean, 112 max EV last year and hasn't gotten past 110 this year. But the hard hit rate, could maybe sit around 40 at some point. I think he could eventually have league average power. That's not what the projections say. That's not what he's done so far. But if he has league average power, he has a really good plate approach. So this could be somebody who hits 250 with a 350 OBP and a 400 slugging. Sounds a little bit more like an outfielder than a first baseman, though.
I may have mentioned this before, but I learned this also from Fangraphs. Originally, Alan Roden in 2023 had Craig Counsell's batting stance and a big leg kick.
Wow.
So if you want to just tell yourself a story that having that and then starting to make changes in the years that have followed might eventually unlock something, it could just take a little bit of time to go from the Counsell stance to something else and then to have it develop into some power.
We should have video of that right now.
I really wish I had it.
Maybe just insert some video in later. Insert a video in and edits. That's just.
I love our listeners and viewers, man. And it's Friday, and we had the deadline yesterday, so I don't think that video is going to drop in there. I might share it. I might just click a link and share it somewhere. But
Share
I don't know if
it in the Discord. Let's put it in the Discord because it is just wild. We should just have a laugh on a Friday. I'll share it in the Discord.
All right, we'll put it in the Discord. I think as far as the position players go, that's most of what we see as far as the bigger winners. Tyler Locklear is going to get a look for Arizona. Adrian Del Castillo, probably going to play a lot between DH and catcher, at least until Pavin Smith comes back. Once Pavin Smith comes back, I think Del Castillo's playing time could be a little dicey depending on how much they want him to catch and depending on how healthy Moreno is. So some moving parts there with his role. I actually just traded for Del Castillo in a keeper league. I was stuck in a spot where 2-catcher league. One of my catchers is hurt. I didn't pick one up on Thursday night. And I had an injured Chris Bubich on my roster, out for the year. Keepable like a buck next year, but we don't know how bad that rotator cuff injury was. So I just
traded Bubich for Del
Castillo. Bubich straight up for possible dart on Castillo. Like, it could be the shrewdest thing ever for the team that got Bubich. If he's just got the grade 1-ish strain where they're just kind of careful with him and he's fine, then big win for them next year. But Del Castillo's got legit power, man. I think in a 2-catcher league, as long as he's playing, he's kind of like a streaming catcher is probably the way I would look at him in the short term, unless he hits his way into a larger role.
Yeah. In terms of, in case you missed it, smaller news that we didn't maybe get to. I think Blade Tidwell has a chance to be the 5th starter in San Francisco. The reason we don't highlight that higher is because they have Carson Wisenhunt, they have Carson Seymour, they have, Hayden Birdsong, they have guys that they can maybe try instead. But Birdsong looks so lost in his last start that I feel like they're going to work that slowly. Carson Wisenhunt is a 92-mile-an-hour lefty with just a sinker and a changeup, so I think he looked pretty exposed when they brought him to the major leagues. Carson Seymour, they've been pretty happy just using as like a 2 or 3 inning guy. And Blade Tidwell could be the kind of thing where Buster Posey wants to say, we're not rebuilding. I'm sure, I haven't read the comments yet, but I'm sure he said, we're not rebuilding, we're reloading. Something like that. They love to say stuff like that. And so, I would say maybe we see Blade Tidwell as the 5th starter, and we see Drew Gilbert in the major leagues just taking Yastrzemski's spot, because they want to see what he has. They want to see if he's worth. They have to put him on the 40-man roster this offseason. So I could see both of those guys being in there. And Mick Abel is probably going to get a short-term look in the Minnesota rotation just because they need that. And then, in terms of losers, I'm not dropping Robert Suarez. They've already said that Miller is the setup guy. Who knows what that means? That could be short-term thing. And even Devin Williams, I do think that David Bednar is my closer just because of the fastball. I just really like fastballs. I really want your closer to have the dominant fastball, and I think his fastball is a little better than Williams. But I'm not dropping Williams yet either. So I'm doing a little bit of a wait and see on those guys.
Yeah, Troy Melton in redraft leagues might be a drop because he's going to the bullpen with the Charlie Morton addition. That was already something that looked a little bit dicey.
Will Bess is not the best closer though, so but they're going to use Melton in 2-inning outings, aren't they?
Yeah, I think he's going to be more bridge than high leverage, at least in the short term. So I think you can drop Melton in redraft outside of like AL only
Dude,
leagues.
Melton's been so up and down this week. I mean, we went from great streamer to like, oh, he lost that second. No, he's got it back. I mean, he was never going to start against Philadelphia, was he?
They knew that, but we didn't.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I thought there was a chance, and Never Paddock comes in and actually pitches well in that first start for the Tigers, which is going to just be.
I love Paddock as a home streamer for me. That's what I'm going to do with him.
I tried to stack against Paddock in 6 picks, and it didn't work. I just backed it up right away. I was like, yeah, here we go.
Yes.
I think I had Carroll, Ketel Marte. I might even had Del Castillo in that one too. He was starting. I put a few D-backs in there. I was
Put
like,
your
let's
money
go.
where your mouth is. Do you know how many times I've tried to stack against Andrew Abbott?
Yeah, see? That's exactly right. I have to win another hat because I keep sweating through the one that I have. Like I need an untarnished hat. We're going to have to make more merch. But new session started up on Friday. If you missed the early cutoff, I think you can win if you miss one day in a session. I don't think you can win if you miss more than one day in a session. It's still fun to play along and get better at it. And then by the time the next session rolls along at the end of the month, guess what? You'll have the habit.
I don't think we've had a repeat winner of any session.
Awesome. Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad we've got that kind of turnover in the winners. Nice to see some different names up there. I think It's Jim from the Discord, Jim Cal on 6 picks that won in this past session. So congrats to It's Jim.
You have a hat coming. I think I still owe a hat to the last session. So I'll send them both out at the same time, I guess.
Eno's hat factory over there is just... it's a little
it's not
slow
that
moving.
much fun, you know. It's like you got to go to it's a whole thing.
I know.
I'll get them out there. I owe you guys hats. I know it. I'm sorry.
Our goal, this is a goal, it's not a promise. Our goal is to have a merch situation someday where you can push a button and get
we
the
don't
stuff
have to
that you
do any
want.
work.
And we don't touch it. It doesn't go through our houses. It's not sitting on a shelf next to our desks.
Yeah, right.
It just shows up at your
right
door
over there.
for a nominal fee, and everyone's happy. Everyone gets what they want, and there's no Derek goes to UPS or Eno goes to the post office. None of that happens, right? That's what we're hoping for.
We are not. This is not set in stone, but Milwaukee. Think about early September. All right. I want to seed this. Milwaukee, get excited. I think we're going to do a live show in Milwaukee early September. So please get in the Discord and tell us you're excited so we make sure that at least 5 people show up. All right.
We would like a few. It would be very embarrassing to set up a live show
and tell us
no one there.
If there are local people that we should have on as guests that would maybe draw some additional people to the thing. That would be helpful for us.
Get some friends on
Milwaukee bloggers or personalities that wouldn't necessarily have to be working that day at the game. So that sort of deal. So and you may see us at the Packers game.
I mean,
Thursday before. So
how about that?
and we want info on the best tailgates and where they are for Packers and for Milwaukee. So help us plan this trip. It's happening.
I'm going to fully admit this. I'm going to say this is the hot take safe zone segment of the week. I don't know where the best tailgates actually are specifically at either one of those places, even though I've gone to a ton of games at both. In part because I don't usually seek a big party. I usually just have a grill with the people I'm with and cook out with them. Or I get to the ballpark and just go inside right away because I cut it too close.
Or you have a hall pass from the family for a game and you don't necessarily have it for a whole day.
Right. I've got 3 hours and 45 minutes and that's mostly going to be spent inside the ballpark. And Lambeau, I always go with family and there's tailgating all over. So the place we always go is this place called Sammy's Pizza. And it's a couple blocks away from the stadium. But the good deal at Sammy's is you buy your parking pass from them. It's like $20 or $30 to park on the grass behind the restaurant. They give you a gift certificate in the amount of your parking pass to use inside the restaurant that day. So you go to the game, come back out. You want the traffic to clear out. Traffic getting out of Lambeau is a little bit dicey. A little bit of a
post-game pizza.
Little bit of a crunch. You sit down, have a pizza, have a glass of Coke or whatever you need to get right for the day. If you're not driving, have a couple beers, let someone else do the driving. But yeah, it's like the best deal around. Easy in and out, friendly people, good pizza. So that's what I always do because I'm with my family. I'm not up there with a bunch of buddies like just spending all. Again, I'm not there all day.
We'll have to give Sammy some love then.
Yeah. So let us know if you've got the big. If you're the person that has the school bus you converted into a rolling bar, we'd love to talk to you. Let us know.
Yeah, totally.
All right. On that note,
classic.
Eno's going to see some things that he's going to be a little bit, I think, in disbelief if this all happens. I mean, that's part of the experience.
Yeah, I don't like. I don't think I've really understood tailgate culture in my life. I mean, the best we've done a little bit at Candlestick. Used to have a little bit of that, but you're freezing cold, and I don't know. I was like young, and my dad wasn't that kind of a guy, so we didn't do much of it.
I remember seeing tailgates for Stanford football games when I lived out there. Small, like very, very small, and it was pop-up canopy and a grill. Like it wasn't.
Yeah, but they want to outdo each other with like their recipes.
Right. It's a different combination of goals, I think, that are trying to be achieved there. I'm like, okay, this does count as tailgating. It is Stanford tailgating. It's a different spin on it. So it's not like that. I'll just tell you going in, you probably assumed that already. It is a little different than what's happening around the stadium at Stanford. So, all right, we're going to go. Thanks to our producer, Brian Smith, for putting this episode together. You can find Eno on Bluesky, Sarris.bscout@social. I am DVR.bscout@social. Have a great weekend. Back with you on Monday.
Thanks for listening.